Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us by way of this digital meeting. We hope that you will find the information useful, and please feel free to participate if you so wish. My name is Don Taylor. I represent the Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities. I am joined here this morning by the rest of the SSTC Board of Directors, also attending digitally, and they are as follows. Lanny McInnes, representing the Retail Council of Canada, Joanne Fedek, the Saskatchewan Waste Reduction Council, Len Richaud, Western Canada Tire Dealers Association, Kevin Lane, CAA Saskatchewan, Deborah Buttons, Saskatchewan Urban Municipalities Association, Pat Zatinley, Canadian West Equipment Dealers Association, and Kim Lee, Ministry of Environment. Also with us this morning are Rod Seifert, MNP accounting firm, Teresa McCoy, our Executive Director, and Jackie Kuntz, Director of Special Events. We've passed many milestones during the past 15 years when it comes to the recycling of scrap tires in Saskatchewan. To help illustrate this point, I would like to take this opportunity to highlight a few of our achievements. 3 years ago, we successfully completed Phase 2 of our mandate. That is the final cleanup of scrap tires from over 300 municipal landfills. This phase necessitated thousands of hours of work on the part of municipalities, collectors, processors, and our staff. A task that seemed monumental when it first began, but now, years later, stockpiled scrap tires in landfills are hopefully a thing of the past. Now, as we move into Phase 3, our vision is still the same, addressing all of our provincial tire waste stream. Our collection totals continue to rise yearly, which is the right way to go in ensuring tires do not start returning to landfills. For your information, in 2012, collectors picked up 790,791 whole scrap tires, which is equivalent in rubber poundage to 2.3 million passenger car tires. Recently, we launched Phase 3 of our program, and as such are enjoying tremendous cooperation in removing private stockpiles of tires. Success of Phase 3 involves partnering with municipalities and stockpile owners, along with the opportunity for various not-for-profit service groups to become involved if they so desire. Teresa and Jackie will elaborate further during their presentations in a few minutes. On behalf of the Board of Directors and staff of the SSTC, I would like to extend our thanks to all retailers, collectors, and processors for their dedication and assistance in making this tire program what we have here today. A program which truly addresses the consumers of Saskatchewan's need for an opportunity to properly dispose of their scrap tires. We look forward to even greater things in the years to come. Thank you for joining us today. I will now turn the meeting over to our Scrap Tires Corporation's Executive Director, Teresa McCoy.
Thank you, John. Good morning, folks, and welcome to our annual public meeting. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. This morning you would have received a digital copy of the annual report. We encourage you to follow along as we make this presentation. We encourage you to ask questions at any time during the presentation, and if you look to the right of your screen, you'll see a chat window. The first time you type in a question, it'll ask you for a password. You could just use your name. Go ahead, type question, and we will break a few times throughout the presentation to answer any questions. We will be compiling all of the data from today's presentation, and it will be posted on our website, and you'll be able to refer to it later. We have a brief agenda today as we present the 2012 annual report. We've allotted about 30 minutes for this presentation, so we'll try to keep on track and get you back to your day as quickly as possible. We're going to cover off some of the highlights of the year. We'll report on collection and diversion totals, and we'll review the financial statements. For those of you following along and wondering how we do our math at SSTC, we've actually been around since 1996. We are a voluntary program, and in 1998, the scrap tire management or the scrap tire legislation was passed, which made us a mandatory program, and thus starting our 15-year journey to this point. It's a little bit complicated, the math, but it's been a great journey, and we're happy to be where we are today. Before there was an SSTC, scrap tires posed a very real environment danger to our province. Most consumers simply purchased new tires and drove off without a second thought. Many of their tires ended up in landfills without much more thought. I'm honored and proud to be part of a group of people who has worked so hard to change the way we deal with scrap tires in this province and to get us to where we are today. As well, tire recycling in Canada has grown tremendously in the last 15 years. SSTC is very pleased to be part of that growing process. About us. So I'm sure most of you who are online with us today are probably very well acquainted with the Scrap Tire Corporation, but just in case, I will cover off some of this information. I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity. SSTC is a non-profit, non-government organization that delivers a province-wide tire recycling program. We're accountable to the provincial government who approves our recycling plan and the public who ultimately funds it. Consumers pay a recycling fee when they buy new tires, which in turn generates revenue for SSTC to cover off the costs of collecting and processing the scrap tires that are generated. We have over 1,300 participating retailers and work with 4 collecting companies and 2 processing facilities in the province. As a quick refresher, the goals of the corporation were set out in 3 phases. Phase 1 is the ongoing collection activity of scrap tires. The program was designed to effectively deal with the removal of waste from the tire retailer location. Of course, with the goal of stopping more tires from hitting the landfill. So this activity is never quite complete. It's ongoing and it's well established. Phase 2, the municipal landfill cleanup that Don referred to in his opening remarks, was completed in 2010. This was a monumental phase for scrap tire. It was a 10-year program. We cleaned up the tires from 300 municipal landfills free of charge. And the communities were asked to pass bylaws that prohibited tire disposal at the landfills, so the intention is that those sites would not have any tires to deal with in the future. Phase 3, private stockpiles. We are actively working on this phase. It's the removing of stockpiles from private lands, like farms and even urban residential properties. Jackie will be updating you a bit more about this phase when we get to the program highlights. The SSTC pretty much deals with every tire out there that is available for recycling through these different program phases. Governance is important to Scrap Tire. We are governed by a board of directors. Don referred to them in his opening comments, and you can see a list in the annual report. The directors are appointed by their stakeholder organizations who are affected by or with scrap tires in this province. Those directors help us manage the day-to-day activities of the corporation, and they work hard to make sure that what we are doing follows our mandate. Managing responsibly is very important as well to SSTC, and you'll hear us referring to how we do that throughout this presentation and in most information that we put out for public. The SSTC is committed to managing responsibly, which means that we are accountable to our stakeholders, the provincial government, and the public. Our financial practices are reviewed annually by an independent auditing firm, MNP, whose fine work you're going to see a little later on, as well as performing compliance review on retailers and processor audits as a way to be sure we are managing the collection and processing activity properly. Here's a bit of our retailer members probably have memorized by now, and that's how the SSTC program works. SSTC relies on a user pay principle, which means that the consumer of the tire bears the responsibility for the tire once it's reached the end of its useful life. All consumers buying a new tire, or 4 if you're buying a vehicle, pay a tire recycling fee on each tire. The fee is then remitted to Scrap Tire, and we use that fee to manage the program. Every business that sells tires in Saskatchewan is required to be a participant in the SSTC's program. Every tire has a tire recycling fee attached to it, and 100% of those fees come directly to the corporation. The tire recycling fees, are set by the SSTC and vary accordingly to the type of tire and adequately set to compensate for the cost of collecting and disposing of that tire. In 2012, the fees for passenger car light truck were $4, $9 for a medium truck tire. Ag tires, the large ag tires were $15. OTR ones, which are off the road or mining and small construction, $35, and the larger mining and construction tires were $75. So where do all these fees go? 91% of the revenue generated from the tire recycling fee goes directly into administering the scrap tire programs. That would be the Phase 2, Phase 3 activity and all of the collection and processing that happens under Phase 1. The 9% that remains is divided into costs for staff, administration, advertising, and communications. That is a highly respectable ratio for a nonprofit corporation. We are always proud that we run this program on a very lean staff component. So how was 2012? You can see these charts in your copy of the annual report on page 6. If you refer to the tires sold, the tires collected, and the tires recycled charts, I will review the information. The recent boom in Saskatchewan includes a lot of things, and most of it is rolling on vehicles and or equipment in this province. The SSTC now has over 1,350 member retailers. They reported a total sales of 1.5 million tires last year. It's a lot of tires to be sold in Saskatchewan, about a 5% growth over 2011. You can see the largest sales activity occurred in the passenger car light truck. About 66% of the revenue comes from that tire category or those tire types. This number also includes just over 250,000 tires that were sold on new vehicles. The auto dealers in the province reported selling 55,000 new units last year in Saskatchewan. We're seeing growth in other tire categories as well. Again, this is attributed to the boom that is happening in this province at this time. All the sales activity equals a very busy collection activity. 790,000 tires were collected. Those are whole tires, were collected from the retailer locations throughout the province. Again, the largest volume of scrap that we picked up is the passenger car light truck category. So every time you retire, and of course if you put on winter tires, those volumes just increase for the program to deal with. All of these tires add up to nearly 47 million pounds of waste that was diverted and delivered to 2 processing facilities in the province. Our processors turned just over 90 million pounds of this material into crumb rubber, waste steel, waste fiber, tire shred, tire mulch, molded and stamped products like the beautiful rubber paving stones you probably see around, and as many other uses you can come up with. They're trying to find a use for the recycled tire material. 50% of our recycled product is in the mulch and shred category. Mulch is the largest growing market in Canada right now. Mulch is available in many colors and in many styles, and it's a great alternative product for the landscaping industry and or for home consumption. It is truly a nice product, and it makes a really good look for your yard if you're happening to do some landscaping this year. 33% of the product that's recycled is into crumb rubber. Crumb rubber is a pretty amazing product. It can be colored as well, molded into products like the paving stones, or used to resurface your driveways or sidewalks or pool decks. Is becoming a very popular use in the province as well. Crumb is also a favorite for playgrounds. They use it as a replacement for sand if you're using loose crumb. Again, it can be paved under surfaces as well to create a very accessible play area. And of course, paving highways is another popular use for crumb rubber. In Saskatchewan, about 600 kilometers have been paved in total since about 2005. So moving to the next page, we're going to get into our 2012 program highlights. This is the work that we do day to day, and this is what we measure each year as successes for our program. We currently have 5 flagship programs, if you will, that allows us to fulfill our mandate. It's the Black Gold Rush program, the Return to Retailer program, the Community Demonstration Grant program, the Be Tire Smart program, and the Recycle, which is the bicycle tire recycling program. We're currently in phase 3, which is the cleanup of private stockpiles, and the Black Gold Rush, which is what we have named that program, which offers the free one-time cleanup of stockpiles in rural Saskatchewan primarily. Going hand in hand with the Black Gold Rush program is our Return to Retailer. And at this time, I'm going to turn the podium over to Jackie Kuntz, our Director of Special Projects at SSTC. Jackie has been key to the success of these two programs, works diligently to make sure that everybody has a successful tire roundup and is satisfied with their program at the end of the day. Jackie?
Thank you, Teresa. Good morning. So the program highlights that I'm here to share today are the Black Gold Rush program and the Return to Retailer. Phase 3 of the Saskatchewan Scrap Tire Corporation's mandate involves removing stockpiles of scrap tires from private lands like farmland and urban residential property. It's a one free time scrap tire removal that's conducted at no cost to the public, and this phase is also referred to as a Black Gold Rush or sometimes BGR. You can see the picture that's on the monitor there on the top right-hand corner. That picture is of the collection that occurred in the RM of Harris. It was led by the District of Harris Lions Group, and they collected over 4,000 scrap tires. Actually, looking at that picture, to me, that's a beautiful sight, and that's how I'd like to see all of those collections occur. So in 2012, we cleaned up two sizable areas of the province. The slide on the next, the maps on the next slide show the areas that we cleaned up. So the first area, located in the west central part of the province, saw a spring-summer campaign that targeted 26 rural municipalities in the Kindersley area. Nearly 60,000 scrap tires were collected in this part of the province for a total weight of over 3 million pounds. The second area of the province targeted for cleanup experienced a summer-fall campaign aimed at 25 RMs in the Yorkton-Melva area. Over 45,000 tires were collected in that area of the province for a total weight of 2.3 million pounds. Now, the SSTC looks to the rural municipalities to provide leadership and be the first point of contact for cities, towns, villages, and all of the communities within an RM. The process is kicked off through a letter of invitation that's issued to the reeve of the RM, and the reeve is requested to take the program concept to their council and obtain council approval, following which it will kickstart the program. Now, to help the RMs decide whether they will participate in the program or not, I facilitate a number of conference calls for RM staff at the beginning of the process. Conference calls are also facilitated for service groups if service groups are recruited. There are two approaches that an RM can take to facilitate the Black Gold Rush program. The first is they can simply designate a collection site, advertise that collection site to the ratepayers, and at the end of the specified collection period, call the SSTC, and we will arrange to have those tires picked up. The second route that the RN can take is to recruit a nonprofit or service group. Service groups may partner with RMs and assist to set up the collection site, advertise the collection site, pick up tires from ratepayers' location, organize tires at a collection site, and then assist with the cleanup at that collection site at the end of the campaign. If an RM recruits a service group, we provide a fundraising incentive on a per tire basis to that group. Now, we have had instances where RMs have declined to participate in the program. And when this occurs, efforts are expended to find alternate ways to offer the program to ratepayers. In the west central area of the province, this happened in Kindersley. The RM of Kindersley declined, as did the town of Kindersley. So then I went knocking on the doors of tire retailers, and Get a Grip Tire and Performance came on board and led the effort in that area. They collected 737 tires, diverting over 100,000 pounds of that scrap tire waste. Similarly, the RM of Canada, CANA, number 214, declined. The city of Melville declined. The city is within the RM of Canada. So we then again knocked on the tire retailers' doors. OK Tire stepped up, and through their efforts, we were able to recover 922 tires from the community. So in some cases, we're experienced with challenges to find leadership. But the hierarchy is, first we knock on the door of the RM. Following that, the cities, towns, and villages and communities within the RM. And then following that, we look to the tire retailers. And in some cases, we've even worked directly with service groups. So we expend considerable effort in attempting to recruit an entity that will provide leadership for that campaign. In those cases when leadership cannot be found within the community, what we then do is we direct ratepayers within an RM that declined to drop their tires off at a neighboring or participating community. During the campaign in 2012, we contracted a company called Summerhill. Summerhill is a Canadian-based company that works together with organizations on initiatives that result in a positive environmental change. Now, Summerhill was contracted to provide assistance services, and what I mean by that are boots on the ground. They were dispatched out to the RMs during the community roundup days. In advance of dispatching them out to the RMs during those community roundup days, however, they're trained and become knowledgeable on the SSTC, the Black Gold Rush program, and they have a good understanding of the roles and responsibilities of all the stakeholders in the program. We value the contribution Summerhill makes to this program. Now, the Black Gold Rush program is advertised and promoted in the geographic areas using radio and newspaper. In addition to that, a supply of posters are made available to the RMs. Assistance is also provided to the RMs to help them create flyers and distribute those flyers to their ratepayers. As well, we also promote the Black Gold Rush program on the Black Gold Rush section of our website and on Facebook and Twitter. During the 2012 campaign, all 4 of the SSTC's contracted collectors participated in the collection of the scrap tires. The SSTC in this program, we strive to have those tires picked up in the communities as close to the end of that collection period as we can. And as a matter of fact, we have a target of 6 business days, and for the most part, we were able to achieve that 6 business day collection in 2012. Now, both the east and west collections were burdened with weather woes. In the spring and summer, the challenge was rain, and as a result of that rain, road bans. And in the fall, the challenge was rain and the early snowfall. Further challenges included trying to manage the program around seeding and harvest. Despite those challenges, over 100,000 scrap tires were collected, resulting in 2,808 tons of scrap tire entering the recycle stream during the Black Gold Rush program in 2012. So that's the program highlight for the Black Gold Rush program in 2012. The next slide speaks to the Return to Retailer program. Now, the purpose of that Return to Retailer program was to provide a free scrap tire disposal option for residents. Several other provincial tire stewardship programs across Canada have similar programs that enable consumers to return a small, manageable number of scrap tires to retailers. During the pilot, Regina residents could drop off up to 5 rimless scrap tires free of charge during regular business hours at select tire retailers. The select tire retailers included Canadian Tire, Cal Tire, and Quality Tire. And there were 8 locations that Regina residents could drop off those tires. Now, just a moment ago, I mentioned that the tire retailers were select. At the beginning of that process, we issued a letter of expression to Regina retailers, inviting them to express interest in participating in that program. Based on the responses that we received back into the office, we then selected the 3 retailers, Canadian Tire, Cal Tire, and Quality Tire, to participate in that process with us. We also worked together with Look Matters to brand, promote, and launch the pilot program. Look Matters produced the collateral material that resided in the retailer locations that consisted of the vinyl banners, posters, and the vinyl clings that are featured at the retailer sites. Live-to-air radio remotes were scheduled on Saturdays during the summer, with Jack FM personalities appearing live at each of the retailer locations. At those events, the SST staff educated residents on the new program, and Regina residents turned in hundreds of tires. The participating retailers, too, were also very generous with their prize contributions, which helped to contribute to the success of those events as well. Now, in addition to the retailer in-store promotions that included the radio remotes, R2R was also promoted utilizing digital billboards. It was also promoted on Facebook and Twitter, and feature articles appeared in Regina Community Association newsletters, as well as on those Regina Community Association's websites. We also partnered with the City of Regina landfill to promote this program. The landfill staff supported and promoted R2R. When Regina residents would appear at the landfill with scrap tires, they were directed to the participating tire retailers to drop off those scrap tires. At the end of the pilot period in November 2012, we met with representatives of the participating retailers to discuss the R2R program. Changes were made after the pilot, which included tweaks to some of the promotional materials and an increase of the number of tires that would be accepted in the program. We went from 5 to 10. Retailer representatives indicated a willingness to continue to participate in the R2R program through all of their branches. Retailers wanted to participate in the program to continue beyond the pilot period, as they anticipated that tires would continue to roll in at their retailer sites. As a result of the pilot, the Return to Retailer program will be rolled out using a geographically staged approach. It'll be rolled out in urban centers on the heels of the Black Gold Rush program. So in 2013, our plans are to roll it out to the 2010 Black Gold Rush area, which includes the communities of Assiniboia and Swift Current. And in 2013, we plan to roll it out to Kenora, Kindersley, Melville, Rosetown, and Yorkton, and the program will continue to be operational in Regina. With the addition of these other communities, the program will be delivered in 11 communities for a total of 18 locations. So that concludes the program highlights for the Return to Retailer program. I'll now turn it back to our Executive Director, Teresa McCoy.
Wow, that's a lot of tires that have come in through two very big programs for the SSTC. I would really like to thank, on behalf of the board and staff, I'd like to thank the municipalities, the Summer Hill Group, the many service organizations that participated in the R2R retailers who helped make both of these programs successful. Thank you, Jackie. Again, information on either of these programs can be found on our website, and I'm sure you'll be hearing more in the years to come as we wrap up these programs in the province. Moving to two other programs that we offer. Partnerships are vital, a vital part of delivering our expanding programming at SSTC, and we're pleased to work with the Rubber Association of Canada on the Be Tire Smart advocacy campaign. BTS program, or the Be Tire Smart program, has a goal of educating motorists that something as simple as proper air pressure, alignment, rotation, and proper tread helps save fuel and helps tires last longer. Statistics are showing that approximately 25% of the motorists in Canada are driving on underinflated tires. This reduces a tire's life by about 15,000 kilometers. Underinflated tires don't roll well, and that results in more fuel being used. Of course, I probably don't have to tell retailers that. That's information that they know and share with their customers. In 2012, we partnered with the Waste Reduction Council here in Saskatchewan and hired summer students to hit the road with our version of the Be Tire Smart campaign. The students attended over 22 events in the province last summer, and they demonstrated tire wear and tire pressure, giving consumers a hands-on opportunity to learn the proper way to check their tires and to look for issues that would result in maintenance. Another partnership with Saskatchewan bicycle retailers has led to the Recycle program. You just have to look at the logo to see that that program involves bike tires and bike tires only. This is an entirely voluntary program, as there are no tire recycling fees attached to bicycle tires. We are entering our 5th year of the program and have 11 participating bike retailers, and collectively they have taken in over 7,000 bike tires and tubes. That's the equivalent of about 629 passenger car tires. This is a well-received program by that community, as they were having great concern with landfilling bike tires as their only option. So this program gives them a great opportunity to be part of something successful. Every year, our community demonstration grants are awarded for the purchase and installation of Saskatchewan manufactured recycled rubber product. Last year, we supported 6 projects that all needed surface upgrades, from playgrounds to ice rinks to pool decks. We award up to $5,500 per community to help them choose recycled scrap tires over traditional materials in their upgrades. Since this program began in 2003, about 10 years ago, we've given away just under $200,000 to over 65 communities. The application for this program is posted on our website and closes on May 31st. This has been well received, and it's a great opportunity for us to give back to the communities. So of course it's really hard for us to deliver great programming if the public isn't aware that it's available. So we allocate a portion of our budget each year to advertising and communication. To keep administrative costs low, we work with Look Matters, a firm based out of Regina, and they have provided us with communications, advertising, and government relations support on an ongoing basis. We work with them to get the best and most strategic value for our communication dollars, and to educate, reinforce, and change public behavior about managing end-of-life tires. Our Unsung Hero campaign is in its first full year, and it features a number of heroes that are doing their part to deal with end-of-life tires properly. And like the tagline says, thanks at 20 million Saskatchewan. So we've covered off quite a bit of information at this point, and if there's any questions, we will be happy to answer them. If not, we'll just continue to move along. Greg, no questions at this point? Don't be shy. We'll have one more opportunity before we end the program, so if you have something that you would like to ask, again, refer to the box on the right-hand side of your screen. At this time, I'd like to turn over the floor to Rod Seifert of MMP, who will take us through the 2012 financial statements. Rod?
Thank you, Teresa. If everybody would turn to the financial statements part in their annual report, and you'll notice there's 2 sort of verbal or written reports at the front of those. One is from management's responsibility. So part of the whole process within an audit is that these statements are really management's statements, and we as independent auditors come in and agree or disagree with management's assertions on what happened during the year through the financial statements. So the next report you'll come across is the independent auditor's report, and again, I won't read through it, but it's what we as auditors call a clean opinion, or that we agree with management's representations. You'll also note that there was some new standards that were applied in 2012, and we'll see that when we get to the balance sheet. But sort of the old Canadian GAAP, as we known it, had went through some transitions, and now there's actual accounting policies that the association adopted called accounting standards for not-for-profits. They had 2 choices, and that was sort of the selection that they chose. If you turn then to the balance sheet, or the statement of financial position, and this lists the assets and the liabilities and the reserves that the Scrap Tire Corporation has at the end of the year. So this is at a point in time being December 31st. You'll also notice the comparatives were December 31st, 2011. And then because there was a transition between accounting policies from sort of the old GAAP, if you want to call it that, to the new standards for not-for-profits, there is a comparison to January 1st, and that was provided in case there was some actual changes in some of the accounting standards that resulted in changes in some of the numbers, which then required restatement of those numbers. Because of the accounting policies selected within those, and really the simplicity, if you want to call it, of the balance sheet, there was no changes that arose out of the change in accounting policies, so there was no sort of numbers changing just because of the accounting standards. If we start up at the top, you'll have your most sort of liquid assets being cash, and you'll notice cash has gone down by about 300 and some thousand. That directly relates to the next statement when we get there, but there was a $371,000 deficit occurred during the year, which was directly related to Phase 3 and was planned for and budgeted for by the corporation. Marketable securities is up, and that, if you go to the next line, and that's just up because some of the longer term investments are now getting closer to maturity, and so they're shown now as sort of current part of marketable securities. Accounts receivable, again, a relatively minor number. Prepaid expenses, again, relatively minor. Capital assets, again, sort of minor. The investments down there, of course, it went down, and that's because there was a movement up into marketable securities or stuff that's maturing in a short period of time. And you'll also notice that the investments that show up at $412,000 is some of the balanced fund investments that are a little longer term that the corporation holds, and we'll see a gain on those in the next statement. And like I said, again, the book value of those investments is about $363,000, so there's about a $49,000 gain since those were initially purchased. If we move down, then you'll see accounts payable, and again, that increased over 2011, and it mainly relates to a bit of timing of when the processors and collectors are billing. But again, we'll notice that those fees are up substantially when we get to the income statement as well. The goods and services tax is the amount that's payable by the corporation based on the revenues that they collect, net of expenses. So if you move down, you'll see the stabilization reserve wound up at $1,896,000, down from 2.2, and again, that was the use of that sort of past reserves to fund phase 3 for the most part, or the special projects that the corporation undertook during 2012. If we turn now then to the statement of operations and reserves, so where the balance sheet was at a point in time being December 31st, this statement is the accumulation of transactions from January to December of the current year with comparatives to the prior year. As Teresa had mentioned earlier, the sort of collection of or sale of tires had gone up in 2012 by about 5%. So again, you'll notice that the sort of tire recycling fees went up about 5%, and that's directly related to volume of sales and tires. The sort of other revenues of $48,000 and unrealized gains and losses on investments of $21,000. So there is a chunk of that, like I said, that 412 that does vary based on market values. So last year it was down, this year it was up, the sort of recovery of those amounts. If you move down, then you'll see the next big sort of category where most of the money is spent is on the recycling costs. And again, you'll see some recycling commission paid to for the collection and remittance of some of the recycling fees. And then you'll see the biggest cost, of course, is to the processors and collectors. And again, there was an increase in the rates paid to some of the processors of roughly 13.4%, so there was an increase substantially in that area. You'll also notice that special projects went from $74,000 roughly to $764,000, which is the programs that Teresa had talked about under phase 3 of that program development during 2012. The remainder of the expenses wind up to be sort of what is identified as program and administration expenses, and they wound up the year at $745, sort of up from the $647 the year before. And if you go through some of the larger amounts in there, increases year over year, there was some professional fees increase resulting from consulting fees for some of the process or the phase 3 processing, as well as in 2011 there was some positions that were vacant for a big chunk of 2011, which were filled near the end of 2011. So those salaries were in the salaries and wages for 2012, where there was a piece missing in 2011. So what does that mean? You go down to the bottom, and so the year you wound up with a sort of a net deficit of $371,000. As indicated before, that was sort of budgeted by the corporation, and as a direct result of sort of the phase 3 or special projects that the corporation undertook during 2012. The rest of the statement I'm not going to read through. The next one is just sort of shows you how the cash flow came in and went out during the year, and again, I won't read through that. The notes to the financial statements do disclose a little bit more of what the actual accounting policies of the corporation are, as well as gives you a little more information on some of those numbers if you have some interest in looking at what makes in more detail what some of the numbers off the balance sheet and the statement of income. And if you just correspond to those notes, you can find those. That's a very quick run through the statements, but I'll turn it back to Teresa, and as indicate, there's time for questions, so if anybody does have any, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Rod, and thank you, MNP for the great work that they do every year in keeping us financially accountable. So I've nearly come to the end of the presentation. On the last few pages before the financial statements, you will have seen in your annual report a timeline, some notable highlights of SSTC over the past 15 years. I'm not going to go through them, but I think the biggest one to point out today is that we have removed over 20 million scrap tires from the province's waste stream. This is huge. And we've done it in probably with very little interruption to anybody's day-to-day lives. I don't think we have any more questions, so we're just going to plow ahead here. You can always, after you've had a chance to go through the annual report, you can always contact our office. We'll be happy to answer any questions that come in. And of course, again, this video and the annual report we posted to our website. So to wrap up the 2012 year and ultimately our 15 years of operation, I was trying to come up with something that, you know, might be a bit witty or insightful and stick with you. But I think the best example of our success is, in fact, our 15 years of operation. We've got a group of collectors and processors that have been part of this program since the beginning. We've removed millions of tires from landfills, and we've kept million more tires out of the landfills. We have a strong board of directors, a great group of staff and professionals that help keep our program efficient, and we have tire retailers of this province have a program that works for them. I think we're doing something right, and I think the 15 years supports the work that we are doing, and I look forward to the future. Many thanks to the board of directors, the collectors, processors, staff of the SSTC for your work and dedication. It takes a true passion for the environment and for tires to be able to do this job. And thank you, Look Matters, for the great job in hosting this webinar. We appreciate your support as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. From wherever this webinar may have found you, have a great day, and we'll talk to you again in the next year.